Great Scott. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another fabulous episode of Great Scott. I'm Scotty V. Thanks for watching. There are a number of things that happened this past week or so that I wanted to chat with you a little bit about. Among them is that Jesse Eisenberg scenes were cut from Justice League. He plays, of course, Lex Luthor. Many fans did not like this portrayal of Lex Luthor. Many thought that Jesse Eisenberg was too jokey and too goofy, too nerdy, too awkward. I myself thought that about Eisenberg at the beginning. Before I saw the show, I didn't really love the casting. I wanted a bigger, more intimidating, the muscular, more in shape, more sporty Lex Luthor that has been present in comics for a number of years. I kind of wanted to see Lex Luthor more akin to what we saw on Superman the Animated Series, which is a series that I have felt for a long time doesn't get its due. Everyone always talks about the Batman animated series, which is by the same team members, and yet Superman doesn't really, the same as is in the case with comics, television, movies, doesn't really get a lot of love in his animated incarnation either. So I kind of wanted to see a Lex Luthor along those lines. Brilliant, deceptive, manipulative, powerful, but also strong and kind of impressive in his own right and could intimidate other people. Jesse does it in a different way in the movie. He's intimidating with his brilliance. He's intimidating with his strangeness. People are uncomfortable around him. It's a little bit of a different way to have gone. I do feel that it's Lex Luthor. It's a slightly different version of Lex Luthor, but a lot of people complained that he was more like the Riddler or the Joker. This only happened in the last few moments when he had already had his mind corrupted by whomever he spoke with, Steppenwolf, Darkseid, whoever he heard from, when he connected with the communication devices in the fortress and got the messages downloaded into his brain. This was cut from the movie, so we only saw it in the extended cut, so that kind of hurts his character as well, because no one really knows why he's suddenly acting that way. But he certainly didn't act that way all through the movie. He kind of acted like a Lex Luthor would, albeit a smaller, less intimidating, slightly more quirky Lex Luthor. But then you have Gene Hackman, who's a goofy comedian the whole time. So I'm not sure exactly what it means that his scenes were cut. They could have been very small. It could have been minor. If he's still under mind control, that seems like an important thing they have to get to in order to get to another Man of Steel story where Luthor might be involved. I like a Luthor who fights with the League as well as against just Superman. I like the idea of him being their enemy, the world's enemy, someone that is formidable against any hero. And at one point or another throughout all history, Lex Luthor has appeared in every other hero's comic as their enemy for that week or that month or that storyline. So certainly he could be present in Justice League. He could be present in other heroes' stories as well. I'm not expecting that because the other heroes have their own villains and we only get limited amounts of films, but I am a little surprised that he was cut from Justice League. Probably he doesn't have a huge role to play. We haven't seen him in any of the trailers, which you might not if he had a small role, and now that it's been cut, my speculation is that it is because it was a small role and because he only had a minor few lines or a minor few scenes, and they're trying to tell the story of the return of Superman, the formation of the Justice League, and what threat this Steppenwolf and Darkseid in the future may bring. Along a similar line, some early showings were shown of the film itself, Justice League, and some word has come out about how great it was. Epic was a word used in several cases. People who didn't enjoy Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad are also calling it great, and I'm sure there are people who did enjoy both those movies who are also calling it great. Obviously, they're not going to release the ones where people are saying it's bad, and the issue, of course, here is that both Man of Steel and BVS were highly praised by Warner's executives, that they were standout movies and that they were fantastic, and not that long after they were released, all of those people distanced themselves, and everyone decided they weren't good movies, and nobody really stuck to what they were saying. The other thing we heard about was that Darren Aronofsky has supposedly expressed interest in directing a Superman movie because it's Superman, he says. He's the top guy. He's right alongside Batman in terms of legendary status and in terms of popularity. all of the good heroes are kind of taken. He would want to do a unique take on it, and they're already in the process of reinventing Superman, is what he says. And so that idea probably isn't going to happen anytime soon. So it's not like he's talked to anyone at Warner's or that there's a possibility of him actually directing any Man of Steel projects in the future right now. Although when you express something like that, it is possible that somebody could contact you later. By the way, I'd like to direct a Superman film. That they might call him or they might contact him isn't out of the question, but that's not what's happening right now. He just said that, of course, if that had ever come up, he would love to do it. He also says he loves Man of Steel and thinks of Zack Snyder as a great filmmaker and really loved what he did with it, and that in terms of being a comic book fan and loving that character, he doesn't see how it could have been any better. I tend to agree with him, although we all have things we might have done differently or things that didn't click with us as well as we would have liked in any version of any film or any character that we see. Moving forward, maybe we'll find out why the scenes with Eisenberg were cut, or maybe they'll be added to an extended edition just like they were later on. The other thing movies do, and I talked about this when we were talking about the extended cut of Batman v Superman, is they do try to streamline things. They do try to move things aside that might detract from the overall arc they're trying to tell, or that might just make the movie too long and are deemed important but not important enough. I've heard directors say, I really hated to cut that stuff, but I had to in order to reach a time that the producers wanted or a time that the studio wanted. Theaters need to play movies a certain amount of time. This movie's already talking about being long. I would watch a 7-weekend Justice League movie or Superman movie, but a lot of people wouldn't. And also, even if there were a lot of people who would, the theater then can't show it enough and then can't make their money on it. I expect that if he was cut from the film, his inclusion must not have meant too much, although the scene with Steppenwolf was pretty important as to explaining why he acted the way he did at the end of Batman v Superman. The other thing you got to worry about is these actors, especially someone along his line of caliber, kind of have big egos, and if you start cutting them out of the films that they spent time on instead of doing something else, they may decide not to come back and do another. Now, for a lot of fans, that'll be good because they don't like his Lex Luthor, but my guess would be that would mean no more Lex Luthor because you can't go ahead and cast another Lex Luthor, although maybe they made him Lex Luthor II so that if it didn't go well with Eisenberg, or if he wanted to bow out, or because he only signed up for one film, I don't know what his contract was, they did it to save themselves so that they could bring in another Lex Luthor, but that kind of belittles the character, takes away from his importance because now there's another Lex Luthor and it's not the same. I've always said that even though they said in the film that he was Lex Luthor II, it just meant that they wanted him to be the son of a guy named Lex Luthor, but that he was the Lex Luthor, Superman's arch enemy, not the son of somebody who might show up down the line. Although if he leaves because of being cut from movies, maybe that's a possibility of something they would do in the future in order to replace Lex Luthor. I don't know. Thanks everyone for watching, and remember, Otisburg. Otisburg.